Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
Welcome to Marvelous Disney, the podcast that discusses the most recent doings at one of the more dynamic divisions of the Walt Disney Company, and that is, of course, Marvel Entertainment. This is entertainment writer Jim Hill, and my co-host, the amazing Aaron Adams, and I are recording this week's episode on the afternoon of Thursday, March 2nd. Mind you, the day this show is actually supposed to go live will be Friday, March 3rd, which, just so you folks are aware, National Cold Cut Day and our National Day of Unplugging. So, Aaron, how about this for a plan? You get yourself a deli platter and then you leave your phone in the car so you can pull a brief Robert Frost, go for a walk in some snow-filled wood.
Charcuterie boards for everybody. Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
I'm going to now throw in the especially local plug of this show has been brought to you by Goose the Market in downtown Indianapolis. For the best charcuterie board, Goose the Market. All right, go ahead.
Cool. Okay. All I ask, folks, is if you could maybe hold off on the National Day of Unplugging until after you listen to this podcast, because Aaron, I would really appreciate that, because deli platters are expensive. All right, lots of Marvel-related news this week, and as always, the news portion of Marvelous Disney is brought to you by Storybook Destination, trusted travel partner of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. For a worry-free travel experience every time, please book online at storybookdestinations.com. Okay, so let's start with the obvious. Aaron, were you following any of those stories about the scary, monumental fall-off in box office for Ant-Man and Quantumania for its second weekend in release?
Well, what did it fall off? 95%?
Well,
are they expecting it to go up? What's the math is always usually unfortunate on week 2, isn't it? Like a 60% drop off. So what did we hit? 80%? 90%? How bad was it?
71.
It's a little bit, just a touch high, a touch.
Okay, so as of right now, Ant-Man and the Wasp stands at 171 domestic, 196 million overseas. So that's 360 million worldwide, 12 days after it debuted in theaters. And if you read the stories this weekend, oh my God, this is a disappointment. And it's like after 12 days, 171 million in North American theaters. If we jump now to the original Ant-Man back in 2015, 12 days after it was released to theaters, it had only sold $113 million worth of tickets. And then if we jump ahead to 2018 to the second sequel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, that sold $142 million worth of tickets in North America in just 12 days. So am I the only one who can do math?
Yes, actually, I've done a show on a different podcast about how Americans can't do math. Yes, you are the only one. Yeah.
Oh, well, there we go.
The question is, didn't they under-predict? They said the opening would be X, and it turned out being higher than that for their opening weekend?
It did.
Okay, so doesn't this kind of balance that out? They got a little bit more, those second week viewers actually showed up on week 1 instead and didn't show up on week 2, but the numbers are still kind of the same-ish. They over on one side, under on the other, but overall balanced, right?
Well, the other thing that's fascinating here, and if you talk with folks at Disney and Marvel, they will flat out tell you that people aren't stupid. They now know that in roughly 8 to 12 weeks, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is going to be available for viewing on Disney+. Where in the past, if they really enjoyed an MCU film, an Infinity War, an Endgame, or No Way Home, they'd go to the theaters after seeing it on opening weekend and catch it additional 2 times, 3 times, whatever.
You know what's got to really suck for them, mathematically speaking, is trying to figure out what is the actual number of individuals who do have Disney Plus that avoided the theater because of the principle of I'm already paying for Disney Plus. Because you and I went to the theater, they've got our money, so they've got that number, right? X amount of tickets by X amount of dollars per ticket equals this many individuals. So that's very, very simple math. Where it gets really murky for them is when you get to the Disney Plus side. You and I both have Disney Plus. I bet both you and I will end up rewatching Ant-Man Quantumania. Now, they don't know whether you and I both purchased a ticket or not. And how can they tell whether I had a ticket, went to go see it, or I didn't have a ticket when I'm watching it on Disney Plus? There's no way for them to verify that. So they're going to get a number on Disney Plus saying Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania had 30 million views, as an example. But they're not going to know how many of those were original theater goers watching it a second time and how many were actually first-time viewers that avoided the theater. And they're not, if they can't figure out that math, it's going to be a long road of them looking at this very complex algebra for like the next movie that comes out. It underperforms. Okay, well, what's that tell us on Disney Plus? Okay, well, that gets 40 million views. How does that break out? I don't freaking know, Bob. We're still missing a couple variables here.
No, absolutely. And trust me, they are chasing this data. They're trying to figure out the non-intrusive way to collect this information so that they can then sort of factor this into, okay, how can I justify that budget? Because it'll make this much theatrical.
At some point in the future, we're going to be watching, like going to click play on Secret Wars on Disney Plus, and the little pop-up will go, have you already seen this in theaters, by the way? Just click yes or no. Before the movie will play, you have to tell us, did you see this in theaters?
What would the incentive be? What could they do? Because I bring this up because just last night on Jimmy Kimmel, Jon Favreau was on the show promoting season 3 of The Mandalorian, and but again, you got to remember that Jon Favreau wears a number of hats. He's got his Star Wars hat and he's got his MCU hat, and he knows what a huge Marvel fan Kimmel was. So he brought an alternate take of that post-credit scene from the original Iron Man where Nick Fury shows up in Tony Stark's house and recruits him for the Avengers initiative. So, if you tuned in last night to ABC Late Night, you got this clip. But could that be the way, to the effect of how do we get you to, give us additional info?
You know how on DVDs now we have like the director's cut? What if they flipped that and reversed it and put the director's cut in theaters only and then put the edited for television version? Like, where instead of saying the expletive, well, that dirty, rotten cat scratcher, is the dub where they cut out the swear words and they put in little spots for commercial breaks, and it's poorly edited that way where some scenes are kind of lifted out because it almost showed a boobie. Not that Marvel's ever done that, but yeah, you could just do the tamed down version and then do extra scenes that
That's an act of evil genius right there, Aaron. Oh my God, I'm almost afraid that you just put that out in the world. Just because that sounds like a wonderful business plan. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are idiots like myself who I'm seriously thinking about going back to the theater where Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is playing, not necessarily to see the film, but they had this really cool popcorn bucket that was shaped like the Ant-Man's helmet.
Oh, no, it should have been a MODOK where you're eating out of his skull. He could sit on your lap with his little legs. You just put him on your lap like a little toddler and you're eating popcorn out of their skull. It's a wonderful image. Wonderful image. They really missed the boat on that.
It is so interesting you bring this up at this moment because the gentleman who wrote Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, Jeff Loveness, was talking just this past week with the Daily Beast about the reviews for a Quantumania, which, remember, we talked about in a previous show, were kind of brutal. And Jeff went on to say, look, to be honest, those reviews took me by surprise. I was in a pretty low spot. They were not good reviews. And I was like, what the... Yeah, I was really proud of what I wrote for Jonathan and Michelle Pfeiffer, and I thought it was good stuff. And I was just despondent. I was really sad about it. So he actually went to the theater and attended a public screening of Quantumania after seeing those negative reviews. And he said, he's sitting there surrounded by audience members who were laughing at a lot of the jokes he put in the script. And he's like, God damn it, no, the reviews are wrong. I'm right. MODOK is great. So it's like, okay, overall now I'm pretty happy. I'm at a better spot. And I learned that it's not all bad. I just have to get on making things. Toward that end, though, did you see I want to say this was a review for the Hollywood Reporter that Jeff did, where he talked about some story threads that evidently were teased in the trailer. Did you see in any of the early Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania trailers a shot of Evangeline Lilly's character with longer hair and with 2 kids?
Not that I recall specifically, no.
Well, evidently this was shot, and it was sort of the notion of to give the Van Dyne character a story of her own. This is what the multiverse could mean. This is the road not taken for your character. And the gentleman who was doing the interview for the Hollywood Reporter talked about the fact that, Ryan Coogler was, talked with him just a few months ago, and he was talking about the original story for Black Panther 2 back before we lost Chadwick Boseman, and the whole notion of he had been dusted for 5 years, and when he came back, he found out he'd had a son.
Oh, by the way, before you continue, can I just throw in a conspiracy theory seed real quick?
Okay.
This will sprout into a beautiful tree one day. Trust me, Jim.
Okay.
Kang is not a long-lost descendant of Reed Richards.
Mm-hmm.
It's T'Challa's son that we meet in Black Panther 2. Go.
Ooh.
Watch that tree blossom one day. Just we'll add some water to it by feeding that every once in a while. Like that's our conspiracy theory, and we'll let that grow over the next couple of years.
That's 2 in one show. That's impressive. Okay. Anyway, so Loveness was quizzed about this, especially given if you think about the whole thing about Scott Lang and his thing of I lost time with Cassie, and just the whole sense of it feels like there was more of a story thread there. Certainly, I think on the last show you were pointing out that this was something that was hit pretty hard in the early trailers of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and didn't necessarily, pan out in the finished film. But before you finish films, you got to start them, and we've been following Deadpool 3 that's readying production, and Hugh Jackman definitely has a black belt when it comes to social media. I don't know if you saw the interview he did just in the past week where he was talking about how putting back on the adamantium clause, did I say it right?
Adamantium, yes. Like
okay.
the old singer, Adamantium.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay. But he said, that's not a problem. Said the thing that's concerning me about playing Logan again is the amount of growling I have to do. He said, I've actually done damage to my voice over the years through playing Wolverine. So, it's one of these things where only somebody who periodically shows up on a Broadway stage would express this concern. My falsetto is not as strong as it used to be.
Right.
and I put that down directly to some of the growling and the yelling I did in the X-Men movies. So I don't know. I'm sorry. That kind of cracked me up. Anyway, as we keep saying, we are very close to a start of production on Deadpool 3, and this long-awaited pair-up of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman is slated to arrive in theaters November of 2024. But as we talked about just on last week's show with the Marvel shifting its release date, let's see if that one holds. And speaking of movies that, we're going to see shortly, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse just had an interesting bit of casting news that ties back to Deadpool. Do you remember Karen Sony? He played the cab driver in the first 2 Deadpool movies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was great. He's going to be playing another Spider, isn't he?
Yes, he's going to be playing Spider-Man India, which is another one of the multiverse characters. But we'll get to see him in action when this Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse sequel shows up in theaters on June 2nd.
There is a Spider-Verse thing going on right now in the comics that I am kind of hoping shows its ugly head somewhere in the cinematic universe. They kind of do a go back in time situation where Peter does not get bitten by the spider. Instead, it's a different character, and she ends up becoming the character, I believe, Silk.
Oh.
Which Amazon is supposed to be having a show in development for right now. And Peter Parker still helps her because he's like a scientific genius, and he can still kind of create like maybe the webbing fluid for her if she decides that she needs that. But it's if Peter was not Spider-Man but helped the spider person, whoever got bitten by the spider, and the whole gag of the story is that they have to get back to, I guess the real Peter Parker is will save the multiverse. And apparently he's like dead right now, or doesn't exist in the way that they know him. So they're trying to get to a bitten Peter, and this ain't it. But anyway, it's all convoluted in the beginning of a new storyline. But Silk is the spider back in the day. Peter Parker never gets bitten, but he helps and teams up with. And I know Amazon's got a thing coming from Sony about Silk. So who knows if they'll steal from that? Because I know they're really kind of heavily invested in the idea of a Spider-Verse, especially if they also have that Spider-Man Noir that they also recently said will be in development shortly.
To further muddy the waters here, I was reading a story earlier this week that evidently Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man will show up in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But the intriguing thing is not an animated version, but the live-action Tom Holland. So it's like, okay, how do you pull that off? Other news. This is on the production side of things. Nat Moore, who is the vice president in charge of production and development at Marvel Studios, recently revealed that Captain America: New World Order begins filming in just 3 weeks. This is our first time we're going to see Anthony Mackie's version of Captain America up on the big screen after Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But Aaron, you came across this great story about Anthony Mackie and his trouble getting access to the script for New World Order.
Yeah, I'm going to extremely super paraphrase from like Uprocks, the website where I found this little article, but it was essentially that he had to text someone and they would meet him out in the woods under a moonless night with a briefcase. And actually, it wasn't a briefcase. I think there was a laptop inside of the briefcase. They didn't even have like a physical script, but he would then have to like, I don't know if it was a thumbprint ID or whatever, but he would log into a website that would show the script at that moment. And then he said, for real now, that there was like a 21-year-old intern just sitting there hating you. He's sitting there eating Cheetos going, read faster. And he says, I'm dyslexic. And he's like, I don't care. So... yeah, apparently they're incredibly secretive, even with the big stars who, well, you would think that you could trust the big stars of the movies, but apparently we have Tom Holland's in the world that teach us differently. We have Mark Ruffalo's who teach us differently. Yeah, everyone accidentally lets something slip. But again, you filmed this like a year ago. Tom Holland filmed the Spider-Man movie, a year before it came out, maybe a year and a half or 2 years. And he's been sitting on these secrets, and then they're getting ready to do junkets when the movie comes out, and they're like, what was it like? And he was like, oh, it was, and he doesn't know what the day is. Has it been released yet or not? I mean, I've been waiting 3 years on this secret, and apparently on a specific Tuesday I can let it slip, and I don't know if this is the Tuesday or not. So, so they keep those things so incredibly secretive still.
Yep.
Can you blame them, though? Can you?
If you're a Tom Holland, think about it. It's got to be so weird. I mean, for example, I was just reading a piece in Forbes about the Web Slinger, a Spider-Man Adventure attraction at Disney's California Adventure. And they were talking about how they've recently introduced some new tech that you can, of course, purchase in the post-show gift shop, that some of this actually keys off of Hank Pym and Scott Lang in Ant-Man Quantumania. But the notion is you can juice up your performance in the ride if you buy this tech that keys off of the latest release in theaters. But at the same time, they mentioned, oh, and by the way, since there is a new Spider-Man movie coming, that we are looking at updating a scene or two in this attraction, which, remember, only just opened at DCA, 2 years ago? 2.5 years ago? Just opening this past summer in Paris.
What they need to update, though, is the web shooter. Here's the web shooter for movie 1 that you can purchase for $59.99. Here's the web shooter for movie 2 that you can purchase for, $65. And the one that just came out this week is now available for a low $90. Give us your money.
Pretty much. All right. Past few weeks, folks, Aaron and I have made a point to talk about award ceremony or award season on the show. We've been especially tracking Angela Bassett's pursuit of a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for her performance in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And by doing that, talking about the weird world of Hollywood where it's important how you do on other award shows that sort of uses the tea leaves to determine what's going to happen at this year's Academy Awards. This past week, though, there was an especially weird moment in the awards show season. They had the World Trailer Awards, Aaron, and this is for the best work that's done in advertising and promoting a film. Worth noting here that the team that marketed The Batman, as well as Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, did quite well at these awards, which, by the way, were not Hollywood adjacent. They were held in Portugal. But for example, for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, they took home the award for Best Online Advertising. And given how you and I have bashed on this movie repeatedly, I know you're going to love to hear that the best motion poster for a film last year was the one that was done for Morbius. So Morbius got a little love.
Well, that's because it was like an hour and 39 minutes shorter than the film. And it's all you really needed to see. You look at it, you kind of nod your head and go, cool. And then walk on by and you're not ruined by having to watch the movie. I can see that winning the award. Okay, makes sense.
Cool. Okay. Now, switching over to trailer side of the business, Best Sizzle trailer was for Thor: Love and Thunder, the Taika Waititi movie. Best teaser trailer was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And let's see, Wakanda also took home the best motion picture poster.
That's a lot of comic book heavy content. Were there other things that won other awards that just aren't listed here because they're not quite, Marvel relevant at the moment? Most romantic trailer or something?
No, this is all about how things are promoted in the world of television, cinema, gaming, and streaming. Just honoring the folks who aren't necessarily the creators of the content, but the folks who figure out what's the best way to promote these things. And given what Black Panther: Wakanda Forever has earned at the box office so far, it's hard to argue that they mismanaged the publicity. In fact, they did a pretty solid job.
Oh, it just seems ultra male heavy. Like all of those movies, it's like not one romance, not one thoughtful, not one educational, not one whatever, just superheroes in capes and tights.
I do not know what to tell you, but I will keep an eye on the World Trailer Awards next year. And if there's a rom-com...
things are much more flashy when they explode, so I guess, it's probably going to lean that way anyway because there's more action to feature. So I get why those things would end up eking towards the top anyway, naturally.
Okay. All right. Pivoting quickly to some casting news. I don't know if you've heard Lauren Glazer, who previously had been on the Mindhunter show. She's been cast in a supporting role for a new limited series that Marvel Studios is prepping for Disney Plus, Wonder Man. The story, as it's put out by Disney Plus to promote the limited series that's in production. Wonder Man follows Simons Williams, who in the comics is a scion of a wealthy industrialist, but his company winds up losing out to Tony Stark's Stark Industries. Williams then goes to work for the villain Baron Zemo, who gives him ionic talents, that being extreme strength. Once an adversary of the Avengers, Wonder Man eventually teams with them. And beyond that, details of the show are being kept under wraps. Ben Kingsley is associated with this project, so I'm wondering if our character from Iron Man 3 and Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings shows up again.
I mean, he would have to.
He would have to. So, as we mentioned, Lauren Glazer, her exact role in the show is being kept under wraps at this point. On the other hand, Stephen Yeun, who a lot of folks know from the Walking Dead show, he's just been hired to appear in the Thunderbolts. And what's kind of interesting is the rumor that's making the rounds for this project, which again is supposed to arrive in theaters next year in July, is that he's playing Marvel's astounding Golden Man, the Sentry. Do you know this character?
Nope, not a clue.
Supposedly, Yoon was brought on board for this project with the idea that this character will continue on into the MCU and in other projects.
It seems like we're getting, a lot of periphery type characters, but it also seems like with the number of projects, maybe slowing down, it seems like it's going to be really hard to get to know all of these new fascinating characters. Because, Guardians of the Galaxy, we're going to have was it Adam Warlock as a new character that we're going to... we've already had teased the younger brother or whatever of Thanos at the end of Eternals that was played by the pop singer kid.
Oh, you're right.
Right.
Harry Styles. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And there's a lot of little characters that are being teased and introduced, and then they're like, oh, by the way, we're going to not put out as much content and cut budgets a little bit here and there. And I wonder if that's going to affect, because we're going to have a team-up movie soon. And I don't think I'm going to like a lot of these characters enough for them to be in the Avengers just yet. Right. I want time to get to know them, to develop them a little bit. Captain Marvel is like the new kid on the block in my mind still. She just had a solo thing, and then she ended up saving the day at the end of Endgame. But she wasn't there for most of it. She just showed up and did a really great job at the very, very end. But still, she's like a new kid in feel for me, where she hasn't had a proper sequel yet. And we've just got all these new characters who are being seeded throughout the universe. And I wonder, how much time are we actually going to get? Are they going to get used properly or not?
I think we're getting back to the Hollywood math thing we were talking about at the top of the show. And it's just, for me, it's fascinating to watch what gets used and how it gets used. Like, for example, on the second half of today's show, we're going to talk about that crazy bit of news that broke earlier this week about Rogers the Musical, literally being staged in a theater at DCA. And it's another one of these things. Am I the only one who paid attention to Hawkeye, the limited series that...
It's embarrassingly bad. Let's make a real life embarrassingly bad play. Yeah, but see, the thing is, I'm tempted to watch it. It's so bad it was good. That was kind of the idea that they had to do. Like, if they mock traditional stage plays and musicals in the right way, they, kind of like This Is Spinal Tap or For Your Consideration type of movie where, they give you the theme and then they just lampoon the source material in a proper way. It could be a lot of fun. It really could.
Mel Brooks has a house by the sea because he did this. But
yeah.
All right, we'll tell you what. Let's take a quick break here, folks. And when we get back, we will talk about Rogers the Musical and the venue it's going into, the Hyperion Theater at Disney's California Adventure.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and no prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
The detective said missing kids usually come home. What happens when they don't?
Based on a true story.
Police looking for John Gacy.
We discovered bodies. By the looks of it, they're younger men. The things he did to those kids. He's sick.
The system failed these families.
Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy. Streaming now, only on Peacock.
Do you know how many there are?
Up to you to find out.
As we mentioned before the break, we're going to talk about Rogers the Musical. But first, I feel like we need to talk about the Hyperion Theater, which a 1,984-seat venue that had to be built on an Indian burial ground, because this theater has been snake bit since it first opened in February of 2001. Now, mind you, the original plans for this theater, Aaron, it was going to be the Disneyland Resort equivalent of the Universal Amphitheater at Universal Studios Hollywood, with the notion that during the day, this outdoor amphitheater was where you went in that park to watch the Wild Wild West stunt show. But as the park would close for the day, the set for the Wild Wild West show, which was on this elaborate sort of train track kind of setup, turned. And then suddenly the Wild Wild West show was to the back, and to the front was a professional stage that a Frank Sinatra or a Neil Diamond could appear on. And so Universal could get two bites of the same apple. They had this venue they could use in the theme park during the day, but they could do professional stage shows and concerts on it at night. In fact, the very first professional production of Jesus Christ Superstar that was done out in Southern California was actually mounted at the Universal Amphitheater in the same space that the stunt show happened. So I would pay good money to watch Jesus walk out of a saloon. But moving on. So Disney was going to do the same thing. The idea was that they would build this theater right down by the edge of Disneyland Plaza, with one set of doors that faced onto Disneyland Plaza and another set that were inside the park, so that during the day, people who were seeing a stage show inside of the park would enter through that way. But then as the park closed for the night, if, for example, just like with the Universal Amphitheater, if you were going to go see Pink or Rihanna or that sort of thing, you could come drive down to Disneyland, you could park your car in the big parking garage, take the shuttle over, and then go in through the Disneyland Plaza side and see your concert. But then, as happened with a lot of aspects of California Adventure, the powers that be at Disney decided to cheap out to the point that they moved the theater away from the edge of Disneyland Plaza so they could no longer double dip. And then to add insult to injury, they literally didn't put toilets in the theater. If you have to go to the bathroom while you're attending a performance at the Hyperion Theater, you literally have to walk out of the theater and go to a different building, because that saved some money, supposedly. Hyperion Theater opens with the rest of California Adventure February 2001. The very first show that's inside of this thing, Steps in Time, which is sort of a deconstruction of Disney music, is so poorly received that within months it's closed. And they actually take a Broadway show called Blast and do a cut-down version of it. They throw this into the theater temporarily called The Powers of Blast, and that starts running in the fall of 2001. And finally, by the end of 2002, they're like, okay, we're going to do something different. And in this case, it's Aladdin, a musical spectacular that opens in January of 2003. Kind of interesting. It predates the Aladdin, a new Broadway musical that opens at the New Amsterdam in New York in March of 2006. But Alan Menken, the Academy Award winner who did the score for Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and so many Disney films, he wrote a brand new song for the theme park show, which then never showed up in the Broadway production, a song for Jasmine called To Be Free. And Aladdin does okay. By spring of 2010, Disney announces that Aladdin the Music Spectacular is going to close, and they're going to bring in Toy Story, the musical, which had been created for the cruise line. But some reason, that plan changes, and Aladdin then hangs in there till January of 2016. It's then announced that they're going to put a new musical based on a Disney animated film, Frozen live at the Hyperion, into this DCA theater that opens in May of 2016. And then the theater closes in March of 2020 because of the pandemic. So Rogers the Musical first got seen as a painful, the musical number that we saw Clint Barton and his family watching in that show was I Can Do It All Day, which is, the musical version of the Battle of New York. Just last year at the D23 Expo in Hall D23, Kevin Feige, who stood on stage and, was like, I come to these things and the Disney animation people, they always get to do musical numbers and I'm jealous and I want to do one. And suddenly here in front of the 7,000 people in Hall D23 is I Can Do It All Day being presented. In fact, Mark Shaman, the gentleman who wrote the song, is there directing the music. And it was well enough received that here we are now with a limited run of Rogers the Musical debuting at the Disneyland Resort sometime this summer.
This would be a great time for a little cross-promotion with, say, the Muppets. You get Statler and Waldorf up in their little balcony seat, just heckling the show the whole time. I've seen a better hammer at Ace Hardware.
I like that. I do like that. And have you seen the trailer, by the way, where, somebody who is clearly dressed as Peggy Carter is walking up Hollywood Boulevard and suddenly the marquee of the Hyperion Theater opens and you can see that the Rogers the Musical is about to debut here. And it's just sort of like, so the fact that they show Peggy in the tease for this makes me wonder, how much of a show are we going to get? Are we going to, for example, people forget that there is another musical number that's associated with Steve Rogers. Do you remember the Star-Spangled Man?
Oh, yeah, from the original First Avenger.
There we go. Well, that number was written for that movie by Alan Menken. Again, we just mentioned the guy who wrote the music for Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and that sort of thing. And David Zippel, who, by the way, they collaborated previously for Disney on their musical version of Hercules, who... I want to remind folks that there's a live action version of Disney's Hercules in the works. Only Anthony and Joe Russo, the guys who wrote and directed Captain America Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, and Endgame, they're the guys behind that. So there's a lot of the story that sort of folds in on itself. So I have to wonder, because they're going to want to do at least a 20-minute show, maybe closer to a half hour. So I Can Do It All Day. Well, it only seemed like it ran 20 minutes when I was watching it at the D23 Expo, but I'm sure it's shorter than that. So I would guess the Star-Spangled Man gets them another 5 minutes.
No way. If they're going to do a short show, I mean, what'd you say, like 20 minutes?
The very best theme park attractions are short. They turn quickly so you can get another audience in. And remember, this is a theater that seats 1,984 people. So potentially a relatively short show, something that's close to a half hour or thereabouts, you could do 5 and 6 performances a day. Easy during an average operation day at a theme park. And that's 10,000 people who get to see, Rogers the Musical. They go home happy.
That just means that when you're writing a song, it's more of a Delamitri roll to me that comes in at a tight 2 minutes and 10 seconds versus Inagata Davida, which you all know is the bathroom song for the DJ.
There we go. Yeah.
So
that and Alice's Restaurant. Yes.
Yeah.
So, all right. It's worth noting that by mounting Rogers the Musical in the Hyperion Theater at DCA, that then allows the footprint of Anaheim's version of the Avengers Campus to expand, to go deeper into that theme park's Hollywoodland section. Also worth noting that just in the past week or so, directly across from the theater where Rogers the Musical is going to be staged, they've just opened the Moon Girl meet and greet, which, is helping to promote that new animated series on Disney Channel and Disney Plus. So going to be kind of interesting to see what happens here long term. And more to the point, just the fact that, Moon Girl is there, doing the meet and greet, which helps promote the animated series. That's how those guys on Madison Avenue work. They're always looking for new ways to capture your attention to when you want a burger, but you don't understand why you want a burger. And toward that end, I don't know if you folks are aware of this wonderful new podcast, 32nd Street, that does a deep dive on the world of advertising and how things are marketed. But that's your latest outside project, right, Aaron?
Indeed it is. That's my new baby. And this week we're talking about geolocation and advertising. Man, is it handy? And really, isn't it better to have a commercial that's actually relevant to you, that could sell you something that you could actually use, as opposed to being bombarded with, say, I don't know, diaper ads? Like, I don't have kids. I don't need diapers for any reason at all. Why are you telling me about diapers right now? Get out of here. You're wasting my time. So, yeah, turn on your geolocation and your smart settings, unless you're a spy. If you're a spy, leave them off. That's the one exception.
I have to admit, I have very little experience at this, but it's worth noting. Just after Christmas, Nancy and I met up with our friends Angela Ragno and Flo Doyle, and we were getting together at the Burlington Mall. Then the ladies decided they wanted to do a little shopping, and I was the Sherpa. I was the one who stood outside with the bags. But the very thing you're talking about, the fact that my phone, I would move a foot and a new alert would come up on my phone to the effect of, hi, you're next to the entrance of this store. Do you need calendars? You know, and move a foot and, hi, you're near the entrance of this store. How do you feel about scented candles? Because you can get them 2 for $1. And it was just, I had never seen this in action. And it was like, holy cow.
I hate to say that I'm one of those idiots that will pay $6 for a cup of coffee from Starbucks, but like I get to the drive-thru and my phone goes ding and it's like, here's the card to pay for the coffee you're about to buy, you jackass. And I can tap it and put my thumbprint on it, and it comes up with a little barcode reader, and I show the guy my phone, and he scans it, and that's how we make transactions nowadays. And it is really kind of weird, but once you start getting used to it, it changes the way that you live your life.
Oh, no, definitely. It just, I mean, I get the whole point of smart devices and the notion of, you know, the ease of use. I mean, you're obviously in the drive-thru at Starbucks. Let's get you your media set up so this transaction can happen as quickly as possible. But these days, I can be outwitted by toasters. So it's the notion that my phone, it has so much more on the ball than I do is just kind of depressing. All right. Anyway, that's too much information, folk. But other information I like to share with you, to remind you, we got some other podcasts here. We have, of course, Disney Dish that I do with Len Testa. Likewise, we have Fine Tuning that I do with Drew Taylor. Likewise, we have Looking at Lucasfilm I do with Brian Gahn. And in fact, he and I will be recording a brand new episode now that, as we mentioned, top of the show, season 3 of Mandalorian's underway again. On the other hand, if you just can't wait to hear Aaron's pithy comments or learn more about what he's up to, can you tell the nice folks where they can find you on social media?
Jump over to Twitter and type in @Azaprod, AZAPROD. You
can also find me on social media at Twitter and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And I guess that's going to do it for this week. So on behalf of Mr. Adams, I want to thank you for listening, and we'll be back with a brand new Mud real soon.